Hey, this is Kim from Not Consumed. Welcome today. I'm glad you're here. If you've been joining us this week, we are talking about lesson planning, and today is the big day because we're going to talk about the weekly checklist, and I'm going to help you figure out exactly what I mean when I say I do not use a plan book at all in my homeschool. And so I know you've been looking forward to today, and I have too, because I can't wait to share with you all the tricks that I have learned. So two things first. Today's question, if you will answer, is do you use checklists or to-do lists or not so much? So that's what I want to know. Are you a checklist fan or no? I love to make lists and checklists. I have used everything, and you can share in the comments things that you love too. For groceries and stuff, I use things like Wunderlist. It's WUNDER list, and even my kids have access to that, and they can type in when something is missing and we need to pick it up from the grocery store. I have this giant whiteboard actually right here to the side of me here in my office, and I have it divided into days, and I make checklists every single day because I love to, even if I've already done something, I love to put it up on the board, because then at the end of the day, when I see that I've done all of those things, then I feel really good. And if I see that I haven't done some things, but I've done some things that weren't on the list, then I don't feel so bad, right? So the checklist does have that great ability, and I like that. So I am a checklist fan. I want to know if you're a checklist fan too, and maybe what your favorite thing is that you like to use for that. So let's get down to business with why I don't use a lesson plan book. And it all relies in the chaos of life. So, things happen. And let's say you're planning school today. And as you're doing school today, you realize, okay, this child has to go to the doctor. They have an ear infection or whatever it is. We have had a long history of ear infections with my boys when they were little. And so that was a very real situation for me. And so we would go, and then sometimes that would mean we didn't get to math lesson number 22. And then I had it neatly written in my plan book that we were going to do all of these things. And so today's Wednesday. Let's say today was Wednesday and we didn't get to math lesson number 22. And then guess what? My whole plan book is a disaster. And being the perfectionist type, that was a big problem for me, because now I needed to you can't skip lesson 22. So I have to move it to another space and everything. And so I started searching for another option because I realized this is not working for me. And I'm getting frustrated, and sometimes, we just don't get to lesson number 22, and I don't want to have to keep moving it to the next day. And then the other thing that I realized is all of the curriculum that we were using made sense. It wasn't like I really had to sit there for long periods of time and figure out, okay, what math lesson are we going to do tomorrow, right? Well, lesson number 22 is tomorrow if we did lesson number 21 today, or last time we did school, whenever that was, right? Well, most of my curriculum was like that. Even reading, we were just going to do the next thing. So instead, I started focusing on making a great annual plan, which we talked about 2 days ago. If you missed that video, go to the Not Consumed page and scroll back, and you can see that video on the annual plan. I would make a really good annual plan for exactly what I wanted to cover and what I wanted my kids to know and all of that. And then, pick my curriculum. And then I would make a great calendar, which is what we talked about yesterday, so I know exactly when we're doing school. And then from there, we would just do the next thing the next day. And we used this checklist that I began developing little by little, and now have put into a formal weekly checklist. And I'm going to show you, give you a sneak peek of the checklist first, and then so this is what the checklist actually looks like, okay? I'm actually going to walk you through step by step this checklist, but I thought instead of skipping straight to the checklist, I'm going to walk you through the entire book so that you can see how it's all set up. And so that's our plan for today. Let me start by showing you the cover. This is The student record and planner, you can see I've already, this is empty because this is for this year, and we haven't started writing much in it just yet. We have a few things filled out, but not much, okay? So I'm not going to show you the empty one. I am actually going to show you our real, for real one from last year. It's all worked in, and this is for my oldest child, so I thought it would be really helpful for you to see. Now, the very first page is the All About Me page. I love this page because we usually do it the very first week of school, somewhere in there, and it's really awesome because they can look back year after year and see all the things that they love and that they're interested in and stuff like that. So that's really cool. It also has lines like, you know, what grade are you in? Because that's always helpful to teach homeschoolers. And what's your address? Something else we forget to teach them, and stuff like that. So that's what the first sheet is. The second sheet is their goals. So we also filled this out the first week of school, and this sheet is designed to get them to start thinking. I really want them to think of this on their own, but sometimes I will add to it. I'm going to scroll and see if you can see a little closer. She says, this is my favorite one. Her health goal is to get more sleep. Pretty funny. And her homeschool goals were to please her teachers at co-op. Then she has spiritual goals and personal goals to use her time better and stuff like that. Now, this was the 7th grade, so don't expect your 2nd grade boy to come up with this kind of stuff because he's not going to. But this is something to kind of, I really like the opportunity to just talk over with my kids. What are some things that didn't go as well last year that we want to go better this year? And they usually have some pretty good ideas. The next sheet is the educational snapshot. That's the sheet that we talked about on Monday when we did the annual plan, and that's exactly what it is. Now, I have laid out all the curriculum that she is using. And the reason for that is so when I write lesson in the checklist, if I write lesson 1 for math, I want to know, I want somewhere for it to be recorded what she did. And so here it actually says she was doing pre-algebra. It's in a Becca book, and that's how I know exactly what she was doing, right? So, and then again, it shows here. So then, for Shirley English, it was, for grammar, it was Shirley English 6. And so then I will know, what lesson it really is. Otherwise, it's just kind of, there's not a lot of information. Okay. We'll get back to that in a second here, how that works. The next page is the calendar. We talked about calendars yesterday and how I color code them and stuff like that. So go back and watch that video. Then we have monthly calendars. We also talked about that. Now I'm going to skip ahead to the attendance record. Now, for those of you who were asking me yesterday about the calendar and what happens when you have days that, you know, you were planning to do school, but you didn't do school, no problem. This is what the actual attendance record is for. This is our actual legal record, so we know when we did school, when we didn't do school, and whatever, so that we can mark it down. It is color-coded. Basically, you put the month of the year here, and then you color in whatever days you do school. And then you can actually record at the bottom how many, we didn't do it, but you can record at the bottom how many days you did that month so that you know as you're going along. You can compare it to that first one, which is your plan, but this is your actual. We have to keep record of this in South Carolina. We had to in North Carolina too, so I kind of got into the habit of doing this. It's basically taking attendance, which is a requirement in a lot of other states. But even if you didn't do that, this is just a great way to keep track of your actual days in school. Okay. Then the next page, I'm going to pull these off, is the reading record. Okay, you may have noticed in the front when I recorded her reading, I didn't actually list out all the books that she was going to read. I actually said, see the reading record, and that's because it's all in here. So it tells me when she read them, the title, the author, and kind of how she felt about it. So that's what these are for. If you have a 7th grader who's reading a novel a month, this is all you're going to end up filling out. If you have maybe a 1st or 2nd grader, you're going to need this sheet and all the rest. right? Because there's a bunch in here. So don't feel bad. And this is true for not just this book, but any curriculum ever. Don't feel bad when you have recorded, when you have something like this and there are more pages than you're actually using. Don't worry about that. Do what you need to do that's best for your family. Okay, the next section is the assessment graphs. I'm getting to the right page because my daughter picked the one she wanted you to see. She said, don't show them my science grades. They're not as high as my grammar grades. I'm like, oh goodness. So this is what this looks like. And I get a lot of questions about how to use this graph. The idea behind it is to keep track of what you're learning and to see at a glance how you're doing overall in a subject. So you put down here, it says Chapter 2 test, and then the grade is actually written there, and then we graph up because it was 100, we graphed to 100. And then this one was an 85, so we graphed to 85. See how that works? And it gives you an idea. So when you have, like, let's say that 85, which really is not a bad grade at all, but she might have been really discouraged about that, then she can see, but look, I have all these other good grades. I don't have to be discouraged about one grade that wasn't ideal for me, right? And then you just keep going across. For us, in her, a lot of times she ends up going on to the next page. So this is more grammar. Let me show you what they did with math because this is kind of cool too. She had so many math assessments throughout the year that they didn't all fit in here. Well, I've got to scroll back to math. It must be first. Yeah, there we go. So, she drew lines halfway through some of these and did extra assessments there. So that's an option if you have a lot of assessments in, maybe your math curriculum or whatever, and you're running out of space, that's something that you can do to accommodate for that. Okay, so that's how you use the assessment graph. Next is the weekly checklist. Now this is the key part, okay? This is what keeps you from having to actually have a lesson plan book. You need to keep a checklist or some information about what you actually did each day. We write the subjects here. We had a subject called Back to School. That literally was the those first two sheets, the goal sheet and stuff like that. That's what we do at the beginning, right? And so then she will mark off that she'll put a check mark here that she did it, and then I will give her a grade. Same thing for this. So this is spelling. She wrote in, it's kind of hard for you to see because it's in pencil, but it says lesson 19. Because she was in the process, even though this is the first day back to school, she was in the middle of a CD. We just keep working through this one particular CD. So lesson 19, and I gave her a grade. Math, she did lesson 1.12 and lesson 1.13, okay? And I gave her an A on that. History, she did not do anything. And reading, she just checked off that she did it. So I like for my kids to write the lesson as much as possible versus just putting a check mark, but sometimes it's something like we do extra math nearly every day, and all they really need to do is mark, okay, I did my extra math. They don't really need to tell me, oh, well, today we practiced, because they don't even really know. So they just need to do the next day. They need to do the practice of it. Grades. A lot of people ask about that. For me, a grade is going to be dependent upon the child, how old they are, as to whether or not I'm giving them A's and B's, or whether or not I'm just putting E for excellent, or even with some of my really little kids, I would just put a star. You did it. Awesome. I loved it. Or I might say, okay, you did it, but it was really, really messy and you didn't get anything correct. And so let's go back and do it again, right? So sometimes that happens, but that's basically my grading scale, just for information. Okay, let me tell you about the rest of the form. Obviously, this is name and date, so whatever the week is. This piece can be used two different ways. We use it because all of our curriculum is literally the next lesson. You just do the next lesson, and we don't have to worry about, well, what are we going to do today? I don't write any, in this space, we use it for extracurricular activities and things that are on our calendar. Like you see, it says this is the ranch that she goes to, so we need to know what days she's going to the ranch. This is piano day, and then she had a horse show on the weekend, right? This helps her to know how much work do I have to get done in a certain period of time. She knows Wednesday piano is early, so if she's going to get done, she needs to make sure that she's not messing around on Wednesdays. Same thing, for the ranch days. Those are early days. She has to get everything done, and she has to be able to walk out the door by 12 to get where she's going. So those are early days, and she wants to make sure those are done. If that information isn't there, it's harder for her to know what to do. Really, the goal in this is to teach my kids to have that responsibility, to train them, to motivate themselves to move on, right? Okay. The second way to use this section, though, is to go ahead and put assignments. If you have, let's say, you have a curriculum that isn't as you can't quite tell what you're supposed to do next, or you need to break it into sections for your child, like you need to read this many pages of the book today and then this many pages on Tuesday or whatever. That's another thing you can do with this section. I know a lot of parents use it that way. So, but that is a real simple thing that you can do the week of, and you can do it day by day. So on Monday, you can have it ready, and then if they get that done, then you just move it to the next day. Then you move on and put something on the next day. If they don't actually manage to get that many pages, then you can kind of keep going. I know some people are very effective with lesson planning, with just recording after the fact. So they might do the reading for the day and then just record what they did each day. So that depends on how you want to do it. For us, again, our reading curriculum always tells us what to do next, so we just always do what's next. And then just so you know what the bottom part is, there are habits here, and this is what they're supposed to do each day, and then they check them off as they get them done. The digital portion, by the way, of this file, you can buy this digitally, and it actually has, you can edit all of this information. You can type in this information, you can edit it, or you can buy it in the soft cover like this, and then you just enter it yourself. When you buy the soft cover, just an FYI, the habits are already in there. We've tried to make them as generic as possible. So like it says practice, well, that might be piano, it might be math, facts, it might be whatever you want your kids to practice. And then read for fun, tidy your room, chores, personal care. That's like brush your teeth. I know it's ridiculous. We have to actually put that on a checklist, but we do. And then scripture memory and quiet time. So, my goal is to get my kids checking that off and doing it every single day as much as possible. I want to know that they've done that, and I usually reward them for getting them all done in the day, sporadically here and there. I'll say, hey, if you got all your habits done, come for, get a popsicle or something like that. So just, something kind of fun and sporadic. Oh, the last part is the evaluation part, and that is, also pre-filled for the soft cover, but editable in the other in the digital version. And the goal is for them they will evaluate themselves for the week, and then the parent evaluates them after that. Okay, and apparently we didn't fill it out this week because we're not legalistic about that. Sometimes it doesn't get done, right? Okay, so that's how you use the weekly checklist. If you guys have any questions about using the weekly checklist, drop them in the comments. I'd love to answer them. I'm going to go through the last two. So there's all of these pages are weekly checklist pages. That's didn't really show you, but there's enough for the whole year in there. And then it goes to field trip forms. And so I wanted my kids we have to kind of, make some recollection of the fact that we're doing a field trip and record them in some way. And so I wanted them to be able to have it a little bit more fun so they can rate the field trip and kind of say how cool it was and stuff like that. It's fun. So that's what these are. There's a handful of those. And the very last form is a progress report. Now, the reason that we have this in here because some people need it. I have to keep progress reports for my state. So if you are in a state that has to do that, then it's available to you. If you don't want to use it, that's totally fine too. Sorry, my computer went to sleep. I've been talking too long. That's happened before. Anyway, but that's what this last form is for. So, okay, now, as you know, giveaway this week is a family set of these or a digital copy if you prefer that. So be sure you enter the giveaway. Click on the link up top here in this post. And the question for today is, do you like to make checklists for yourself? And if you want to include how you make your checklist, like if you use a particular program or whatever, you can note that for us too. Be interested to hear that and enter the giveaway. And I hope this has been super helpful to you. And drop any questions in the comments. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day.